Today on Brown Enough, we're doing something special, a first-time roundtable with three powerhouse women whose minds and hearts shape culture in ways that you can feel. I'm joined by Maytha Alhassen, Nina Hosseinzadeh, and Farah Fezz for a conversation about story, identity, community, and the work of imagining freer futures.
Never forgetting that something you may know, someone else may not. And just because you know it or have known it for a very long time doesn't mean it loses its significance. And I think knowledge, expanding people's knowledge, just generally is so important.
We get into lineage, belonging, names, the politics of representation, and what it looks like to build spaces where all of us can be whole. It's sharp, generous, and full of that kind of truth that you only get when brilliant people sit together and really talk. Let's get into it. Can we begin with the very basic down the line introductions?
Sure.
I mean, they don't have to be basic. You can be hella unbasic. But who am I in this beautiful room with?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Farah, or in Arabic it's Farah. I'm a lawyer, but primarily a content creator.
Beautiful.
Hey, I'm Maytha. I am a doctor. I say that I am the type that can save you from a bad argument, not from for your life on a plane. So that's who I am. I like to describe myself as a freedom doula. I was born and raised in Chumash, Tongva land, which is otherwise known as Los Angeles County. And I come from, lineage-wise, all over the Middle East. And strangely, as a scholar, as a community organizer, as a journalist, and part healer, I found my way to Hollywood in some bizarro way.
And we need healing in Hollywood, so I'm glad the bizarroness happened.
Hi guys. I'm Nina Hosseinzadeh, and I am an actress, and I'm Iranian.
Nice.
And I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for y'all. You have each inspired me in different ways. This is our first roundtable on the show, season 3. It's a roundtable. I thought there was something really beautiful about having 3 brown women who are, now more than ever, likely experiencing and needing to use their voice in very important and powerful ways. And so maybe we start there. Like, what does it mean to take up space and use your voice? And you all do it in very different ways.
I would just like to start off by saying that Maytha's work actually has helped me unknowingly. I think I just found out couple days ago that you wrote on Rami. I'd known we'd crossed paths before, and her writing is incredible, but in recent years there has been this progression towards representation that I'd never seen before in media, especially for Arabs. And for example, Rami, the show, portrays a realistic view of what it means to be Arab. And I think seeing that, I don't know when it came out, maybe 4 years ago, was it?
Was 2019 or 18? It was it was greenlit after Trump was elected the first time.
Which feels extra special.
100%, especially when you think back to what was going on with Trump, the Muslim ban, and then you turn the TV on and it's actually representation that you've wanted for so long. It is, I think it's things like that inspire me to kind of do my own, put in my effort to push for more representation.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm also inspired by Rami Youssef's work. He's been a friend of mine for quite a long time. I've known him since he was 19 years old. Wow. He was working at an Apple store, taking improv classes, was at Rutgers University, actually dropped out. He got a gig on Nick at Night, and he started doing stand-up comedy here. Once he was doing stand-up comedy, he would invite me. And I wasn't very well aware of the compliment sandwich, even though I was a teacher's assistant and I was grading students all day. So I would speak up and I would be very direct, unfiltered. This is actually where my dad is from, Aleppo, Halab, they're known for being very direct. That's their stereotype. And I definitely inherited that from my father. And when I was direct about something like, I think Saddam Hussein is played, I don't know if he's relevant. Why is he in your set? And maybe something a little harsher. And not taking Erykah Badu's words to heart that I'm an artist, I'm sensitive about my shit, right? He responded really well. He said, wow, you're honest. I like you. I'm going to keep you around. But prior to that, I had, I guess, the courage. I don't even know if it's courage to speak up, primarily from my father. My father had this unwavering faith in me as his heir apparent, taking on the business, or what he desperately wanted me to do was to be a congressperson, which was, wow. It's so unlike any, Swana Middle Eastern parent's desire. It's usually lawyer, doctor, engineer, but my dad really wanted somebody who could speak up in ways he felt like he couldn't for advocacy for our communities.
Yeah, I think just what we were talking about, how we talked about the intersection of art and culture and relevance and what's happening in social change. And that is something that I am so passionate about. And as an actor, as an artist, a lot of times we ask ourselves why, and is it selfish? Is it self-absorbed? Because a lot of times it does feel that way because of how much you have to focus on yourself and your identity and what you want to show. And right now I'm at the point that I'm realizing that sharing yourself, your work, your culture, your identity, your gifts, and your voice is not selfish. It's actually generous. And I'm trying to be more generous with what I have to offer and the passion that I have for art and social change and representation. And we have been very misrepresented in the media for a long time. And I feel that especially with Rami and with so many other amazing shows that we've seen and art that's being made, and with us out there is change happening and continuing to happen. And I feel very optimistic for the future. And even though the industry is going through a lot and it's been a very difficult time for a lot of performers, and however, I feel very optimistic about where things are going. And I'm grateful that with the film that I just worked on, Rule Breakers, it really showed me that it is possible to do what you love, make an enormous impact, and to be part of something that is just everything that I love and that I want, the impact that I want to make, and that it's possible and attainable. And now I'm just really hungry for more.
Maytha, can you tell us about your new project?
Oh, yeah. I, along with two other executive producers, put together this PBS docuseries called American Muslims, A History Revealed, that takes us from the 1750s all the way to the 1950s. 6 incredible stories that span not just chronological time and geography, but race and gender of the Muslim community in the U.S. Stories that I think you saw it, right? You came to the premiere that we had in Los Angeles, that even Muslims didn't know about. So it's a project that was interested in revealing what has already been there. And we talk about how the important framing for us was not to do inclusive storytelling, but to do what we would call expansive storytelling. And
what's the difference?
Yeah. What we mean by that is, if you think literally of a frame, when you have a picture frame and you're focused, you might just be focused with what's there. But if you expand it, you'll be able to see what's at the margins. And instead of pushing what's at the margins in the center, which what is inclusive storytelling tries to do, which is to say that here are the people at the center, let's make you somehow be a part of the center based on their terms, right? we're at, and it's also an acknowledgement that we've always already been there. So we're talking about stories of folks who were enslaved, manumitted. We're talking about stories of the first mosque or masjid in America, which was in the Dakotas.
Wow.
It was so crazy. A lot of people don't know
crazy.
about that.
Still there?
Well, it was rebuilt by the descendant of the person who put it in there, Mary Juma, a Lebanese woman. At the time, it was Ottoman-controlled Syria. She came, and her family was part of this legacy. I mean, it's a complicated story because she was part of homesteading, her and her partner, and homesteading as a practice took land that Native Americans lived on, the ones that were either genocided or displaced, and then created a program of giving acres of land and almost no cost for people to come in and be part of expanding the frontier. But again, this is what I say in the series. What's fascinating, when migrants come here, they might not be aware of the racial dynamics of this land. So they're sometimes the easiest to use as a erasure buffer. And so we don't shy away from the hard stories, and we come all the way up to, or we have a story about an Afghan who fought on the Union side of the Civil War. Crazy story there. We have a story of the first Black Muslim woman who was photographed with what looks like a head covering. Yeah, it's great. It's on YouTube and PBS.
I think you all do this in a way. I know you do this when you talk about certain music from your culture, language, and we'll get into language and the importance of language and what that means to you. But what does it mean as, not just as artists, but as people? Because I believe we each carry many different monikers. You're like, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer. What does it mean to be a history keeper?
Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts of that as a historian, but I would definitely want folks to jump in.
I think it's never forgetting that something you may know, someone else may not. And just because you know it or have known it for a very long time doesn't mean it loses its significance. And I think knowledge, like you had said, expanding people's knowledge just generally is so important. I think for me personally, nostalgia. Sorry, English is my second language.
Never apologize for that, because there are so many people in the world who can't speak, two languages.
This is true.
So.
Yeah.
Facts.
Until I'm around someone that like I say a word and they're like, wait, what did you just say? Fuchsia? I thought for a very long time was fuchsia, because Arabic it's fuchsia.
I think my mom still says that.
Yeah, and I sometimes will, but anyways, I think nostalgia is what has kept me tied to my roots and has reminded me, whether it's music, whether it's, old shows, because I haven't been back home in 16 years. I want to go to Syria so terribly. You're from Aleppo. I'm from Damascus, but it was summers in Syria that I listened to different types of music. That's why I'm so passionate about music. I think that my tie to that history or that nostalgia is kind of what inspires me, and people remembering that song that I post about, for example, they go, oh my gosh. And I think this is the most, my favorite thing is when I've gotten messages like, I completely forgot about this song, but my jiddo, my grandpa, used to play it back in the day when I used to visit home. So I think that, to me, is why it's so important, because that nostalgia is what kept me so close to home, so far away. And when sharing that has done that to one person, it's just impactful, Yeah.
So, wow, that is so meaningful, because I've never been to Iran, where my family is from, and they had to flee the country, so they weren't able to bring a lot back with them to the US, and a lot of our family history was lost, basically. And just so much of what my family had worked for generations. And they were business owners. They were, had so much history. And when I think about history, I think about erasure of history and how it's actively happening. And we're watching just lineages and people's families and family homes and just all of this sacred stuff be lost. And so there isn't much for me to hold on to, except for, of course, like some photographs and some family movies that I didn't see until recently, honestly. And it just makes me so emotional so my living history are my relatives, and I'm so grateful that I have both of my grandmothers still. So they to me are just like living history of my family history and how incredible and just the stories and how much they went through and in my culture. And I'm lucky that I speak Farsi because of my grandparents. I tried to take a class when I was little. It didn't go very well, but luckily I can speak just because of having my family there and always being reminded of my culture. And so I think we're all also living history for future generations that come after us, that even though we're not in our home countries, our cultures and our family and our lineage and everything just lives inside of us, in our stories and our storytelling.
Yeah, wow. I have so many thoughts with what both of you have shared. I just want to start out with a addendum first, though, that I am not doing a very good job of history keeping our culture by having my shoes on the couch right now. And that I'm giving myself this kind of permission. I have developed rationale. I don't know if you think it's sound, that people are probably not using this in a living room sort of way, that this is a set.
Yes.
So I'm just giving myself that allowance. But if somebody, is this also true for Iranians? Okay, good. I was just going to say it's definitely true for us. If there were shoes first in the house, that would be a terrible idea. But then to have them up on a place where people sit, or if you had them on the table, that's definitely a no-go. I remember once my dad saw me do something like that. I don't think I was wearing shoes in the house. It might have been just my feet were like directly in front of him, and he could not even speak. He was so offended. He said,
"Wait, even feet with no shoes can't like be out on the coffee table."
Respect, yeah. If your foot is
like
up,
facing someone,
if your foot is facing someone,
yeah, because what are you dragging on your foot? You're dragging maybe dirt or something, and then you're confronting somebody with the dirt from your foot.
Don't do no yoga in front of me.
I remember he said, "Ask your mother why you can't do this." It's like, okay, this is serious. But I will say, as a historian and somebody who's descended from lineages that are tied to Lebanon, Syria, what is now Lebanon, Syria, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and my dad is actually from a Bedouin tribe in Syria, from an area called Sokhni. And that actually was a revelation a few years ago, that he was not a city person, or his lineage wasn't, and that his father had to change his accent so that he would not be perceived as that. Anyways, so many thoughts about it. But part of being a history keeper, I believe, is having that deep, genuine, curious interest in what your parents, your grandparents, and any other elements of stories that people in your orbit carry. And I always say that, as we were doing this American Muslim History Revealed project, of course, there were so many people that were coming up to us and asking, what's the protocol? What is the best way to keep the stories? I get names, but I don't get stories. How do I put this together? And what I tell them is, there's almost always an oral historian in your family. Somebody who's kept it all. You know who it is?
Yeah, definitely the elders. Yeah, for sure. And they just talk and yap sometimes, but I truly sometimes.
And if you listen, they're dropping gems.
I record my grandma because I know that one day I'm gonna need to hear this stuff in these stories, and I ask, the questions, and I completely.
I remember once my dad was reflecting on his father the questions he wanted to ask him. And so he just sent to the group text, is there anything you guys want to ask me? I want to make sure that before I leave that you get all the answers you need. And then even more recently, I'm on a group family chat with my mother's side of the family. And one of my uncles, who was the closest to him, and he knew a lot of his diplomacy stories, he was a diplomat, he put together a profile in Arabic and English so that we could have that as a family of all the things he knew that he did in his lifetime. So there are these mini projects that might not see the light of day in a public sense, and maybe they do and maybe they don't, but I think it means being able to have some kind of line of transmission. And I would also say, related to that, as there are people in our orbit who are the oral historians of the family, we should also see ourselves, I argued this in a piece I co-wrote with the other executive producer on the series, Zahir Ali, that we are history makers. Everything that we put on social media, everything, every response, every sort of we are developing a historical narrative for the next generation of historians that are going to try to put a story together of what had happened.
Yeah, I like to say, what kind of ancestor are you trying to be? And with every action you do, you're planting some sort of medicine in the ground.
Yes.
That determines the ancestor you're going to be. And I think that's regardless of whether you have children or not, you're shaping up to be some sort of ancestor. So I really love history maker, ancestor maker, whatever that is. Language. What's the role of language? You talked about interviewing your grandmothers. I was so sad that my parents, it's not their fault, assimilation and things, I didn't know Spanish the way I needed to in order to interview my grandmothers. It's why I took a journey to learn Spanish. It meant a lot to me. It didn't happen in time before my grandmothers passed. But I wanted that. I wanted to sit down and be able to record them and hear these stories. What is the role of language, and do you feel like it's just a blessing, or do you have to keep it alive, or how does language play a role?
I was very, very humbled recently. I in promotion for my film, I got a message from BBC Iran or Persian, sorry, and they're based in London, and they said, and the entrepreneur / engineer that the movie's based off of, her name's Roya Mahbub. She's the one who brought computers to Afghanistan for women to be able to use, and she created a robotics team that my movie's about. And so they asked me very last minute, Nina, can you do this interview with BBC Persian today? And I was sick, and I was in my pajamas, sweatsuit at CVS, at the pharmacy, getting medicine. And I was and she called me on WhatsApp, and she's like, it's super important because I guess I was the only one who spoke Farsi that was able to do this interview. And I was like, okay. And I just ran home, I didn't have time and I'm illiterate in Farsi. I can't read or write. I can only speak. So they sent me the questions, and I'm listening to the questions, and I'm trying to, think of my answers and everything. And they're like, okay, you're on. And I did the interview, but it was harder than I expected, and thankfully, I pulled through and stuff. But in that moment, I wished that I had taken it more seriously. And when my family would always be like, speak Farsi, at the whatever, they're like, no, English, speak Farsi, because I grew up hearing Farsi, but they really wanted me to learn English and to be, that to be my first language. So yeah, it made me really wish I took those Farsi lessons more seriously, and it became, I realized how important it is, and especially in being able to express yourself in multiple languages, because there are words, and I know it's the same with you guys, there are words and feelings and expressions and things that we don't have the words for in English, that you only can explain it in your language. So I am so grateful, and I want to continue expanding my knowledge of the language and my fluency and ability to express myself. And now I value it. After that experience, I realized that, it's such a big part of who I am. And
what's one of your favorite words? in your languages? Because I know this. Your languages are so vibe-based, I feel like.
One that I love is shatra or shatir in Arabic, which is, I mean, would you say like agile, somebody who's can adapt, but also has this like shrewdness.
Has a drive.
Yes.
Yeah, like
you put anything in front of them and they can make it happen, basically.
like a go-getter, but does it her own way. Like I love this word actually. I've never thought about it this way.
I love
Yes.
shatra.
That's so cute.
Yeah. And then it can also be saying in a mocking way, oh, like he's so shatra.
yeah.
Because there was a song that was mocking George Bush, W. Bush, that was like, shatir. Yeah. Way back in the day.
I would say awiye. Awiye
yes.
is, I was telling my friend the other day, I was like, you're awiye, and I didn't know how to. She actually speaks Farsi. The best way to describe it is, uwe means like strength. So, you know, let's say someone is sick and they're coming back to life, they're regaining their uwe. But if someone is awiye, means that they're bold too, right? If you say, you know, like, let's say you get into an argument and you say something just so witty and bold without fear, you're awiye. Or for male, it's awi, which kind of, I would say it's like bold and powerful, fearless. That is what awiya means.
Cool.
This is the other thing I love about native Arabic speakers is, you didn't catch it, but she said best.
Yes.
So there's the insertion of ways that Arabic is still living, even if you're speaking in 100%. English. So fa, which is kind of a filler, like, so there. But I think I have a very fraught relationship to my Arabic. I was actually raised with Arabic first, even though I was born in the US. I was born in Southern California. I watched every kind of VHS that they had recorded, brought over, Iftah Simpson, which was our Open Sesame, which was our Sesame Street as a little kid. And I had home videos talk about nostalgia of me speaking in Arabic fluently, no accent or the perfect accent, whatever you want to call it. And then I went to school in America. And there was a policy that in some school districts have shifted, but I've also found out still hasn't, that if you mark down in the household, there's a question, do you speak any other language in addition to English?
ESL.
So, yep.
Yes. Straight to ESL.
Right. You have the golden ticket, or what's the opposite of a golden ticket?
Did this happen to you? Is that
It's funny because I'm the youngest of three sisters. My oldest sister, because you know the oldest, they're still she speaks better Farsi than me. And then she was in ESL because I'm pretty sure they marked the wrong box. And
it's not wrong. If you just put English and another language, they put you in ESL.
Right.
That's like the crazy part of the story, which at that time they saw bilingualism as a deterrent instead as anything beneficial. They thought it would take away from your capacity to speak English.
What a small, basic way of thinking.
But so what happened to me was I was speaking Arabic, went there, and I was doing Montessori school, so I was already speaking English fluently. I was doing mathematics. I was doing a whole bunch of stuff. And they put me there. I've cussed already, but can I continue to?
Oh, yeah.
So I get there, first day, all these kids, and again, I think I even at this point could read. So they're showing us an image of an apple, and they're asking us what this was, and I was like, this is a motherfucking apple. Like, what is this school thing? Like, that's what I want to know. I go back home, I tell my parents that I don't know why you send me here 8 hours. Like, I'm not learning anything. And thankfully, I did report back. I had the awiye to report back to my parents. And then they spoke to the principal and they said, hey, she can speak English. Why is she here? So instead of believing us, they made me take tests.
An English test.
English test. But again, proved them wrong because I skipped a grade and was put into gifted as a response to that. But I tell this story quite often because what it makes me think of is those kids who didn't tell their parents and continued on a path of basically we were told we were stupid because we carried multiple languages in us. And so, and Arabic, I could speak about Arabic for days. I spoke, what that taught me was Arabic bad, put me in the situation, speak to my parents only in English. And then my parents went to college in English language schools. So they spoke back to me pretty easily in English. And then my siblings, I'm the second eldest of 6, only really heard English. So they really don't have Arabic. So my brother learned classical Arabic Fusha when he was in college. I did too. I tried to teach myself also the common, what is called Ammiya, spoken Arabic. And my accent is not what it was when I was 5 years old. And that's my heartbreak.
Mm-hmm. I was one of the students that didn't speak up when I was in ELS. Or I think at our school it was ELD. Because
where did you grow up?
I grew up in Orange County, Anaheim, so like Little Arabia.
Yeah.
And for me, I didn't speak up because I didn't necessarily know what was going on. I think I was in kindergarten, but also my parents were learning English the same time I was.
And you were a translator.
And I was the best I could be a translator. I'm 5 years old, reading immigration papers. I'm like, I think that's what that means. But I lost my Arabic completely, actually. And when we had gone back for the first time to Syria, I remember my grandpa saying our Arabic sounded like we were speaking Armenian. I still don't know what that means, but I hear Armenian.
It's offensive.
Yeah, but
Sadly, it's offensive.
But I think it's like, because I was a kid and I didn't necessarily know, and I completely forgot all Arabic, and it came with wanting to assimilate. And, you know, like my mom was practicing through helping me do homework. So Arabic was no longer the language we spoke at home. And I lost my Arabic for years. And then I think going back to Syria during the summer, my Arabic improved. But when they would pull out like a sentence in Arabic and they'd be like, read this. And I'm like, oh man, like, I don't know how I could get high blood pressure as like a 10-year-old, but I felt it. But then interestingly enough, Arabic was actually what started my content creation on social media. I started teaching Arabic, not Fusha, because I don't understand Fusha, which is usually very, I don't know how it's like old. In my mind, the way I could describe Fusha is trying to read like a Shakespeare.
It's like formal.
Yeah,
like
it's
formal. Very
Yeah,
formal.
yeah. It's what
Old
connects
English.
because our colloquial Arabic can vary from regions. Some can't understand each other. Like if you're from Morocco and you're from Syria, it might be really difficult to understand each other. But in school, usually you're taught this Fusha as a connection point, and the news is in Fusha.
Yeah. And even I was in Arabic school for 11 years. And my mom actually put us in Arabic school to, one, keep our Arabic sharp after kind of relearning it. But it was ironic because I would talk to my teachers in Arabic and they'd respond in English. I'm like, girl, why am I here? Like, what, you know? And so back to kind of teaching Arabic. So I think I made one video and it was like what yalla means. Or bes, like our kind of
what
fillers. Yalla means like, let's go. Or
Yalla.
That's like Arabic 101.
It's
like,
Arabic.
I know, yalla.
Yalla,
Yes.
habibi, you know, so many. And I removed the Fusha because Fusha Arabic always intimidated me. So when I'd see it and I wouldn't understand it, I'd be like, dang, like all that time spent that I lost Arabic, maybe that's true. I can't relearn Arabic. And people started like picking up on it, and I started getting messages like, oh my gosh, can you help me write my vows in Arabic?
Wow.
My husband is Syrian.
Cool.
And
That's so cute.
and I was like, oh my gosh, and it helped strengthen my Arabic because I no longer felt intimidated, and I simplified it to where and I'm a very visual person, so on the screen I would be like, okay, this is what we covered, this is whatever it was, and that helped me refine my Arabic.
There's this quote, the thing you want most is the thing you should give most of. And I think that literally embodies that.
Yeah.
Well, I also started to really study Arabic too. And even in my dissertation, I did, with the help of my mother, and I include her as thanking her in my dissertation as part of my ad hoc committee, we did some translations of chapters and books that were written in Arabic. And I think there's another crucial point of this conversation that I think gets lost in translation, which I think translation is such an unhelpful term to talk about moving from languages. I think about it more so as transposition. There's a real different kind of sheet music we're playing with, and not just the letters, but where they're positioned in who we are. So for a while, when I tried to speak Arabic, again, my dad said, he said something a little less offensive, but he said, it sounds like you're speaking English and Arabic.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then I realized actually my English, my English, when I speak English and my friends would pick up on prepositions that were so weird that I used, or I had run-on sentences whenever I would write, was Arabic, because that was the first language that I learned. And when my dad had me correct his emails or anything that he wrote, he was also a run-on sentencer. And that's because we actually don't have punctuation in Arabic. That's an invention.
Wow.
Huh.
Wait, I just realized that.
Yeah.
There's no punctuation?
No.
Wow.
That's modernity.
Farsi too?
Wow.
Honestly, I'm not sure.
Well,
I
Farsi
think we
goes
have
through so
Yeah, I
many
think we have-
different
I know we
lettering
go
systems.
the opposite side. We start from left to right, or I mean right to left.
But they have different scripts that they have been using spoken Farsi on. So Arabic gets introduced the same way like Urdu does as a script later when Islam comes in.
Wow.
So there's, the spoken part of who we are. You were talking about literacy. There's this book I haven't finished, or I started reading it. I haven't yet, but this guy.
Shout it out.
I don't remember, but he makes this argument that literacy was a misogynistic introduction, which is fascinating. So the oral tradition is not just, and there are scripts, there are tablets, there's all the cuneiform that we've found in Babylon, all of this sort of stuff in Mesopotamia. But it's interesting to think about how much that's a big measurement of development. Like, are you literate?
Yeah.
Can you read? And the same kind of conversation is not had for, can you speak?
Yeah. Do you have a favorite word in Farsi?
I do.
What is it?
So I have so many, but in this moment, my favorite word is jigar, which means liver.
Jigar.
But which ties into why my favorite thing about the Farsi language, which is how they write love poems and just like how romantic and musical the language is. But jigar means liver, but it's something you say to someone you love, or you call someone you love. And it's like, it means like, I can't live without you. So it's so sweet. It's like, you're my jigar, like you're my liver, which sounds crazy, but it's like you're a vital organ, kind of, but not as like literal.
That's not crazy. That's beautiful. Yeah, to call someone a vital organ is epic.
Very poetic.
It also sounds a lot nicer than you're a vital organ.
We have the same thing in Arabic too.
Yeah. It comes from Islam. I think Islam sees the liver, and I'm gonna butcher this, but as a centerpiece of like, I don't want to say where the soul lives, but is the center part of who you are. But
Right.
Yeah, there's so many. Like, one of my favorite Arabic sayings is "Tu'burni,"
oh yes,
which kind of ties into that, because when you're translating it, you're like, I know liver sounds crazy. When you translate it into English, yes, because I think it loses the depth that it holds. But "Tu'burni" means bury me, so that I'm trying to like
I know.
bury me. And it essentially means I couldn't live without you. Hold up, let me back up. Okay.
This one phrase is meaning everything you're saying after.
Bury me. So, because I could never live a life without you in it.
I would rather die first.
I would rather die first.
That one word.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bury me means bury me because I would rather live a life without you in it.
Yeah, and it's like some people translated it as bury me with your love.
Yes.
And so...
Can you say the word again? Or
Tu'burni is to a male, Tu'brini is to a woman.
And it will just be sometimes casually thrown around, like if a mom wants a daughter to bring her coffee, she would just say that first.
And my mom says it all the time to my brother, and I just hear my grandma in the side saying pray the shed, which means like God forbid, because it's like in actual, like it's kind of like, I don't even know what it means to like
pray the shed.
by the shed means like,
By the shed.
God forbid, kind of like remove the like astaghfirullah type thing. It's like now we've really complicated by the shed and astaghfirullah, like God forbid that he ever has to bury her. Even though it's just such a small
I think it's beautiful. I think it's so amazing. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, but
when one
girl
hurricanes hold so much these emotional languages that carry, and I think this is true of our people. Our people being what I believe are bodies of culture. I think we've talked about this. I don't like bodies of color. I like bodies of culture. Whiteness has never wanted our color. They love our culture because look how rich a word can be. Yeah. Right? This is like all of the things we carry with us. And so when I think of that there was ever a world, which probably still exists, where they're condemning people for speaking two languages, trying to make them feel like they're the ones who have less in this world, when really we have so much more. Right? We can straddle many, many things at once, which leads me into the three of you being here together. This is the first roundtable. I kind of knew it was you three. I'm always wanting to be in a room with Maytha. I think there's something really beautiful about when the two of you walked in on your own. You said, "Oh my God, I love you so much."
Yes.
You both said that to her. And so what does it mean to get out of our silos and to actually be in community?
Well, I do have a background as a community organizer, and a big part of the conversation that we talk about, which science continues to confirm, is that what exploded in response to COVID was self-care, but really what we should be framing who we are, and the best of care is community care. Of course, when the scholar around the Blue Zone, what he found was not just the diets that kept people up into being big communities of people in these blue zones reaching the age of 100, but it was because there was a really strong community bond between these folks that created a scenario where longevity was possible. And so it's really interesting that optimization, I'm wearing one of these, I'm wearing a Whoop, auras, all of this measurement that we're doing so we could get better sleep, so that we could track our resting heart rate, that all of that is usually for longevity purposes. But there's a simple formula in our culture, which is ways of being with each other that are relational. I know Indigenous folks talk about this all the time, that it's how we connect to each other and how we connect to the earth and how we connect to the spirit realms is what good health is, what care looks like. And I know that that's been the transition that a lot of organizing has taken, is to push back against this individualistic culture. And I think, I don't want to speak for folks here, but I do think that is the biggest contrast growing up in our cultures and encountering America is individualism.
Oh, yeah. With self-help, at least, I always say, like, if self-help worked, we would be in a better place. But self-help, I don't think works. Community health is what the whole bookshelf should be at the, when you go to the bookstore. We have the whole self-help section, but there's no community health section or community help section. And this thing you said about, my teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, says the work of liberation may take thousands of lifetimes, but also maybe it has already happened in me caring for you.
Yes.
If I care for you in an honest way, maybe it's already complete. And that's, Thich Nhat Hanh's whole thing is, this hand only works if this hand works, and this finger only works if this. Like, we're just one body here, one thing.
We have an Islamic saying that if one part of the body is sick, the whole body is. And that also extends to the rest of the world. Not just people, but our planet. So I think on a very deep intrinsic level, the other part of that self-help, self-care fallacy is that it's actually it's undermining the quest, right? So it's getting people more ego obsessed than it is curious about who I am. And that curiosity, I feel like spiritually, can only really be practiced in relation.
But also let other people reveal things about you more than you having to always do your own excavating.
Yes.
Like, let other people be a mirror. Can I say something you said out loud in the panel we were on?
I don't remember.
You don't know,
but yeah, I don't know. You asking is making me nervous.
No, you told this really beautiful story that I haven't stopped thinking about since we left. And you said you got hit by a car, and it was really bad. And then you had this beautiful courage to say, when I was recovering, I even enjoyed my bad days. And then you said, I forgot eventually, and bad days were bad days. But I've left that day, and on bad days, I've thought of you. And I've thought of, there is a way where I can even enjoy my bad days. It's an opportunity to begin again. So when I think of community, I think of also like literal, the medicine is in being able to listen to other people's genius and bowing down to other people's genius, right? You said like, oh, you were part of a show that was genius for me.
Impactful, of course.
You walked in here. I saw this American Muslims. It was genius for me. It was nutrients. Like,
Truly.
yeah.
Back, kind of adding on to what you were saying in regards to COVID and individualism. I remember during COVID seeing people fight over toilet paper in the way they did. I promise it ties back to it. Made me realize how individualistic the West is, and I get it. At the time, people were fending for themselves, but like you saw men leaving the store with like maybe 10 things while others didn't have any. And I've always said American culture is very individualistic. Arab culture is a very collective culture. And I, for so long, pushed away from a very collective culture because of the notion of what will people think, which is a huge theme in Arab culture. Because if you do something wrong, it's not just your own wrongdoing. In American culture, you're 18, you're on your own, do what you want to do. In Arab culture, it's very much you do something wrong that reflects the whole family. It brings shame to the whole family. So I spent my whole life being like, I don't want to be part of this collective culture. I don't want my wrongs to have so much more weight than they do, because individualistically they don't. It's about me. And I think the older that I got, the more I realized I don't want to be like, I want to, I want community. And I saw this quote recently where it's, everyone wants to be everyone wants to be a villager, or everyone wants a village, no one wants to be a villager. And that kind of goes back to when you want community, you have to show up even when you don't want to. In American culture, you have a bad day. My friend recently went to Jordan, and it's so interesting because her cousin had to go out to this thing, and her cousin was kind of feeling under the weather. And my friend, she has very American in this line of thinking. She's like, you had a bad day, don't go. And her cousin was like, I can't not go. This is me showing up. This is community. And that is being a villager. And yeah.
Well, that made me also think about, I have to shout out the Palestinians in Gaza. There's something we call samud, which is perseverance, but the only way that there's a lot that they've said about why the ones who are surviving, even though it's unimaginable conditions. But it's community. It goes back to what we were talking about with story. I read something where somebody had said, we have to remain here because we want to be able to exist to tell our story. Because if they were ethnically cleansed from Gaza, then there's nobody left. You know? And so I too had such a resistance, ultimate rebellion against the we. Definitely what will people think? I mean, it was the funniest thing because I lived on a cul-de-sac with all my dad's family, and my dad was known as the Syrian that didn't mix with other Syrians. And so I always ask, like, who is this we? Like your Salvadorian friend or your Nicaraguan friend? I don't think they care that I'm going out, past, out in the dark or driving on the freeway at 2 a.m. I don't think they care. But we also say we a lot. So my dad would say, we don't do that.
Yeah.
We don't sleep over at people's houses. Now I'm thankful.
Yes.
That
The rebellion's like, well, I do.
yeah. They're not sleeping over because now we find out what happens in America when you sleep over at people's houses.
Bad.
Yeah.
So I grew up born and raised in Los Angeles, in Hollywood, actually, even though I'm first generation American. My parents like immigrated here and stuff, but for some reason they moved to Hollywood. No ties to the industry or anything like that.
What was their choice? Why? Yeah, what?
They probably saw Hollywood, like, yeah.
So the funny thing is, my grandma, it's a long story, but basically my grandfather was a shoemaker in Iran, but not your regular shoemaker. He would make shoes for the Shah, and they would import materials from Italy to Iran, and he created warehouses like
this. The Ferragamo of Iran.
Exactly. So you hit it on the head. And so that's why when they left Iran and they had to leave behind factories and just so much that they had worked for. But so they moved to Hollywood. They had a store in Beverly Hills, actually, when they first came to the U.S.
Cool.
My mom and my dad's side had very different stories of coming to America. My dad had already planted seeds because of their shoe store and everything. And when the revolution had happened, he got stuck and his whole family was still in Iran. And they're like, you can't come back, basically. And so that being said, my family has made its way, like all of my family pretty much, except for some people are still in Iran. But I grew up in Los Angeles, in Hollywood, and there were not a lot of Iranians or even Middle Easterns or anyone for that matter. And luckily in LA, growing up, schools are very diverse. So we did have a lot of diversity. But I was always the spokesperson for, my people and for all like Middle Eastern people, just being like, no, like Muslims are not bad. Like this is how it is. And like, and just always kind of doing that. And so I found my community in art, in theater, and those were my people. That was my community. And as I got older and I met, more people from my culture and stuff, and then specifically people from my culture who are artists also, and just being so inspired by that. But even still, even because we're from different places, but being in the US, we relate so much because of the experience that we experience. Because if you look at any of us, like not knowing where we're from, we're kind of put in like a similar boat. And I think also just 9/11 being like a huge marking point for all of us. And I remember being post 9/11, that's when things really changed. And especially our media representation. And you can see how crazy that is. And there's just countless examples of just the ignorance and the terrorists being terrorists and how all that stuff started. And I remember one day I was in school and I was speaking Farsi just to my grandma, and someone said in high school, and someone was like, are you speaking Al-Qaeda? And I never forgot that. It was actually very sad, and I was like, what is going on? And we all started to get grouped together and just kind of under this umbrella of just Middle Eastern. And even the term Middle Eastern, it's controversial and it's colonial.
I don't want to butcher it, and I'm sure you will be able to do it better than I will, but I'll start it. And I heard a philosopher talking about middle according to where.
Right. Oh, that was what's her name?
Because like London, it's a her. Yeah.
Yeah, she's an Egyptian feminist.
She's Egyptian.
Who
Yes.
Passed away.
She was saying London was the
middle of what, east of where?
Exactly.
Yeah.
East of where.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This is when I need my phone. Oh my God. I need to look her up.
But
yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, please.
No. Well, it's interesting. Oh God, her face is just emblazoned in my mind. But I think so. What's emerged? So Middle East, North Africa is the Orientalist colonial framing that has become a staple of academia and then U.S. foreign policy. And then there was a movement in, I think, the 2010s. College students in the UC system created this framework of Southwest Asia and North Africa. But I still have a problem with that. Actually, I have a video that needs to come out. I'm just waiting.
I would love to. I never know what to say.
Well, okay.
You don't even know what to say.
No, I don't know how to refer to,
because the
to our
That's fascinating.
geographical.
Noel, I think her name's Noel. She's a big feminist, and so she was trying to argue for Swana because it has become vogue. But I do think that the problem with that term still is North Africa is very much a colonial term because it's separating Africa based on the Black Africans of the Sub-Saharan and the allegedly brown Arabs in the north. But if you go anywhere in Northern Africa, you'll still see a mix of so many different groups of people. And even if you go to quote unquote the Middle East, you will see people that would be considered Black in America in the Middle East. So I think it's fraught. I think that people have come up with so many interesting things. This guy who wrote this book, Destiny Disrupted, came up with a framework called the, I think, Middle World. People say Arab world, but they're not all Arabs. In Arabic, you would call it Mashriq and Maghrib, and there's a really fascinating reason for why they're called those things. But I also like just even regionally naming things. Like there's this, oh my God, I can't remember her book. She's an incredible writer. She's looking at the native plants of Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Palestine, Layla Fagali. She calls it Canaan because that's the ancient name of the area of that region. And then the rest of like the Persian Gulf, you could call it the Khalij, which is what we call it in Arabic, or you could call it the GCC. But I'm a fan of something I called slippage, which is one word for a geography of a place, one kind of mapping, I think is part of a colonial project. It's insufficient. It's always going to be insufficient, and it's always going to speak to one dominant power. And so I'm for shifting the language always. You know, some people in our region who speak Arabic might still say Sharq al-Awsat, which means Middle East. So are they wrong? They're from there. Maybe they're colonized, but that, if I said Swana, would they know what I'm talking about? So shifting what you're talking about, you know, we mentioned being from Syria. I named the city that my dad is from, right? So I think, and sometimes cities are what people identify with more. Villages are what people identify with much more. And then there is something shared between our cultures. And maybe either we go specific or we think about that for the moment we're talking about that. So I don't know if there's a right word, but I think there's always a different context.
Context is everything. And we don't, one of the ethos of this work, my work, Brown Enough, is we hate things that are maybe a little more complicated than a box. It's just so much easier to be like Middle East or this or that. And I make the argument that we will always be more interesting than any single term. Like no human being can be contained in a term. And that life is way more fun that way. When a single word means, you know, a beautiful, beautiful sentence of 15 words in English, that's the joy. That's the sauce. That's the juice. When the liver is not just the liver of the body, but the liver of my life. Like you're my liver.
I have a question for you, Chris.
Yeah.
Do you know?
You're my liver.
It actually goes back to, like, I think it's Islamic healing, actually, that the liver, because the liver is the part of that cleanses you. That's why it's seen as like the centerpiece of your soul or something like that, where the soul lives. But anyways, my question to you, Chris, is do you know if you might have Arab, Middle Eastern ancestry? Because I do know actually some folks who are Dominican who have traced themselves back to like grandparents in what was Palestine or Nazareth.
There are reasons we look so similar. Have you seen the memes on social media or stuff? Like the Latinos and like the Middle Eastern people looking at each other, like not knowing like if you're Arab or if you're like where you're from.
I don't know. Jordan, can you grab Ada outside by chance, por favor? And then we'll just start to wrap up here if you just want to hang outside, and we'll start to close it up on Am I Arab? I don't know. I one of the things that has been the journey of my life as of the last many years has deep diving more into, you know, what is my blood? Where do I come from? What does it mean? Many moons ago, I wrote this beautiful essay to Birthright because I wanted a free trip to Israel because all my Jewish friends were going to Israel for free. You know, so like,
I remember that
because I was growing up in, you know, Queens, and there was mad Jews always getting these free trips, and I was like, yo, where's my free trip? So I wrote this incredible essay about Ribis, right? Rivas, which is a direct descendant of Ribis, and there's all these like Latino Jews in Mexico and in Spain, and all the Ribises in Spain who converted so that they wouldn't be raped and murdered in Catholicism. You know, so I'm sure, and we've had someone on the show who gave me, like, I believe Spanish and Arabic share 3,000 words at least, that are direct. And the food, he was actually he teaches like this incredible food course at Columbia where he shows you how all these Arabic foods influence Latino foods. And so, yes, and maybe, you know, like, I don't know, but I would love to figure that out. But I also think, yes, like, I've lived many lives and lifetimes, and my family's roots are deeper than I know.
You could be an Arab Jew. Who knows? Where that story came. It's true. Actually, I was doing research for an academic, and I had to, in the early 20th century, look at the Syrians who were coming to Los Angeles, and there were Jewish folks who were from Syria, and they called themselves Syrian Jews. And so I had to categorize that, and there was a lot actually that were in the industry in Hollywood, interesting enough. And so it's wouldn't be a bizarre story at all.
I'm very grateful for each of you. Can we I don't know, one word check out or any word check out?
I think before we kind of skip over the, like, I think I've always said that Arabs and those within the Latinx community are cousins. We're like shawarma and al pastor. My dog's name is Zaytun. In Arabic, that's olive. In Spanish, so when I see a Spanish speaker, they're like, what's his name? And I'm like, you know how in Spanish it's aceituna? Well, in Arabic, it's Zaytun. Azúcar, sikar. I'm trying to think. There's so much. I think I've done a video on
Allah,
Yalla,
Allah.
Ohala, right?
Ohala,
yeah. Yalla. Like, we're cousins. I've always said this. There's so many similarities in our culture, and it's so beautiful.
Yeah, growing up in LA too, everyone always thought I was Latina, and most of my friends, you know, were Latinx, and it's because we just connect so much, and like there is definitely a connection there just in the culture too, which we all feel like the warmth, the family, the hardworkingness, and just there's so much we connect with. And then when just on the whole conversation that we've had today, and we talked about individualism, and which is killing me, by the way, individualism, which is why I was so grateful to be here with you guys, and for Chris, for you to hold space. And I think if I had to check out with a word, it would be space, because these conversations, this moment of us sharing this and just connecting just gives me so much hope and inspiration, because there's so much that can happen in space. And Maytha, when you did your American Muslim screening, like, that was a space that you created, that we all were there and witnessed, you know, all of this information that you guys, I had so much respect and admiration for how much work and how much digging and curiosity went into that, and finding this information and tying into the history and holding history. I think one of the strongest ways that we hold history in our day, and in just not just today, but is in film and in you know, creating these visual replays of just things that have happened. And it's really our only way to kind of see and experience and exist in these worlds and imagine, and you know, so I think film, and that is such a crucial medium in preserving history and being able to share it.
Thanks.
Also, some of the best films I've seen are Iranian filmmakers. I would just want to do a shout out. Yes. What was the name of that film? The boy. Oh God. Okay, you can cut this out, but it was one of the most beautiful stories I've ever seen. So, I think it's maktub that you were in Hollywood, you didn't have a instinctual connection to the acting industry, went into acting, but also come from this history of remarkable filmmakers as well. Right. And you're part of that lineage.
It's one of the main reasons I feel connected to my culture too. And I'm actually seeing an Iranian film tonight by Jafar Panahi, which is one of like the most famous, renowned Iranian filmmakers. So definitely, and so many Arab films too. I was gonna ask you, have you guys seen Swimmers?
We can keep running this, but what is your one word?
I was thinking about your Thich Nhat Hanh quote about liberation and freedom. So I'm just gonna say hurriye, which is freedom in Arabic.
Hurriye.
Yeah, and feeling free to express ourselves and feeling free to be who we are in community. I think that's the dream. I think that's why the we was scary. It felt like we couldn't be ourselves, but we're finding and reinventing the we to have a freedom inside the we, having the I drop into the we and swim in it. Talking about swimmers.
I think for me it's representation and the impact it has, whether it's in film or whether it's in honestly all of your work. It's so impactful. It is, I think representation has so many different meanings, but at the end of the day, it allows us to see ourselves in other people's work, whether it be a song, a film, a book, whatever it is. I think that's what allows us to feel seen and to feel called to no longer use I and kind of go back to we and find community, because representation makes you feel seen by I think it's representation. Yeah.
Let's run it back. Let's throw a Latinx cousin, Iranian Farsi Palestinian party and do all the things. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's our time together. This is our first roundtable, y'all. If you loved it, let us know. Send us an email at brownenoughproductions@gmail.com. Shoot us a DM, me a DM, and let me know what you think about this roundtable thing. I'm into it, and I believe we're going to bring you more. All right, much love, and I'll see you next week. Peace.